Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be breaking down Eat or Die, how to build authority in the era of generative search. We all know about ChatGPT. We all know about all the other solutions like Perplexity out there. And authority is actually an important factor when it comes to getting those mentions and citations within these platforms. So let's dive right in. My name is Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. I also have with me Chris and Elizabeth. Chris, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself? And then Elizabeth, you want to follow right after?
Absolutely. I'm Chris Hill. I lead the content team for MPXL, our small and medium business division.
And I'm Elizabeth. I am an SEO manager on the associate team over at the SMB division of NP Digital.
So at NP Digital, we have 1,000+ people. We're in 28+ countries. We get a lot of awards. We work with a lot of big brands. We're running a ton of experiments on building authority, both for large enterprises and SMBs. And you would think with the large enterprises, you're like, oh, they already have tons of authority. Keep in mind, most large corporations, like all the ones on the screen, they have separate divisions and startups within the organizations where you got to test and build, or you got to build authority, get them the traction. So you get a lot of, we get a lot of experiments and see what's working and what's not. And if you want help building authority, scan that QR code. Our team would love to help you. We did that with Adobe XD. They brought us to help launch a new UX content hub, and we were able to get them 25,000+ downloads from organic search within 6 months, a 648% jump in non-brand first page keyword rankings on Google. And nearly half of all traffic coming from organic search channel was up over 100%. So why eat? In essence, it really isn't something that you have a choice. It's a non-negotiable. AI generated summaries are replacing search signals. This is obvious. You can't ignore it. Without strong authority signals, you're going to see drop in them recommending your brand, your products, your services versus the competitors. And EAT signals determine who appears and really who is left out, right? And these generative engines really rely heavily on things like trust and expertise, and they can determine this not just by signals like how many times you're mentioned, but also things like what are people saying in context when they reference your brand, and who is referencing your brand, and how relevant are they as an authority in the space, right? All these things really do matter. AI overviews are eating up the SERP. 13.14 of Google queries triggered an AI overview in March 2025. And in January, that figure was just 6.49, so doubling in roughly 2 months, according to SEMrush. We're seeing it across all sectors and categories. You're going to see more of this. And even if it's not just AI overviews, Google's now pushing AI mode, right? Which is their version of like a chat GPT style interface if you haven't checked it out yet. But all these things are affecting how many clicks you get to your website. So you want to make sure you build up your authority. So then that way, these platforms mention you may not get the traffic, but we're seeing crazy high amounts of conversion, and those dollars really do add up. And authority is really the new differentiator. If you look at a lot of the factors out there, authority is one of the biggest ones, right? 70% of users trust generative AI answers somewhat, according to WordStream. And when they're mentioning your brand, that in essence is like a transfer of authority. A lot of people trust Chat GPT and these LLMs, so when they mention you, you know some people just go and buy based on what they see on Chat GPT, and the conversion numbers are crazy. We're seeing it make up less than 1% of traffic, but in many cases more than 10% of total sales, right? And authority determines whether you're pretty much part of the AI conversation or just being left out, and you don't want to be left out. So today you'll learn more about the general E. You guys already know what E is. We've talked about this a lot in previous presentations, but we're going to be focusing on how AI systems interpret E, and how they do it differently than, let's say, traditional Google search, proven ways that you can earn citations on platforms on like ChatGPT, but beyond that as well, like Perplexity and Gemini. And we're going to be talking about how you can build up your authority, not just with the LLMs like ChatGPT, but across the whole web on multiple platforms. So live poll. I don't know, actually, I didn't know that we actually can run live polls, but I should ask this beforehand. But poll options. Have you checked your AI citations this week? You can click yes, I check them regularly. I've looked once or twice, or I've never checked, or wait, you can check that. I don't know if the poll options are showing up on the screen, but feel free to type them in the comments if you don't see a poll option. All right, now, so this is on how AI reads authority.
So to rank in AI or other AI platforms, LLMs need those strong authority signals. So this includes schema, clear content structure, and proper attribution to encourage those citations. LLMs also recognize quality through patterns. So they pick up on that consistency in the structure, the tone, and the language of your content. This AI visibility really comes from that coherence across your entire digital ecosystem. So AI is looking at your entire online presence, not just your website. So that's why EEAT matters across all profiles and all platforms.
And one thing to note, they have data feeds and deals with other platforms like Reddit, right? ChatGPT has a deal directly with Reddit. Google has deals like with TikTok. All this is getting them data from other platforms as well that they're using for their LLMs.
Absolutely. We can take a look at an AI overview here to kind of analyze what's going on. We should be seeing how these appear for our own industries. So plugging in your important key terms and just seeing what comes up here for you is really important to understanding this AI competitive playing field. But we've all probably seen these at the top of Google search results by now. These show about 5 to 8 results per citing. And Toro Media actually cites that news appears in only 1 of every 5 citations. And big players like New York Times, BBC, CNN dominate about 31% of those results. So to start showing up more in AI overviews, it's important to look at those sites that are showing up for your own industry. Looking to see what AI is citing when those websites are there can be helpful benchmarks for growing your own visibility and getting your own AI strategies. From our research, we know that sites in AI have strong credentials. They've got clearly structured content. They've got maybe unique contributions to their industry. So maybe they've got a big piece of comprehensive content or a tool or something that makes them a thought leader in the industry. So we can look to these competitors and these sites and work accordingly for our own strategies. All right, we got a question here. So this is about kind of splitting EEAT when you're doing cross collaboration. So I think when it comes to splitting authority, using consistent branding platform to platform and making sure that cohesion is there is really important. I think consolidating that EEAT can always help just linking back to your main site. So whether you've got like a YouTube video, for example, in the description, making sure you're linking back to your site, kind of linking together all your assets is a great way to do that. Would you guys add anything to that?
I think you got that right on, Neil.
Nope, nothing on mine.
All right. Good stuff. So going the extra mile here, some hidden signals that boost authority and may help trigger citations. Freshness tags are huge. So publication dates, updated timestamps, or signals of recently refreshed content. Schema, like we discussed, specifically FAQ and how-to schema. This increases snippet eligibility. So highlighting that chunkable data and really making it easy for those LLMs to grab and cite. AI is really looking for that layered, structured content. So not that surface level formatting where, the heading hierarchy isn't going to cut it anymore. It's really got to be that in-depth kind of layered content in the way that it's written and structured on the page. Supporting EEAT these days is important off-site just as much as it is on-site and everywhere your users are searching. So AI is looking across the web for your brand mentions, your engagement, so that cross-platform consistency is important now more than ever. Showing up on other sites, forums, platforms is now just as important as the work that we're doing on our own site. When we dig a little deeper, some off-site mentions matter more to certain industries and certain LLMs. So we know that Reddit, Quora, Stack Exchange, these are key citation sources across almost every industry. But these are more than just brand mentions, right? We want to be providing helpful, valuable insights when we're engaging in these forums, as AI favors this rather than just a brand plug and play. And then peer-reviewed content is important as well, especially for academic, educational, and medical industries to contribute and publish. AI is consistently citing YouTube, so creating YouTube video assets is a great way to increase visibility in AI. Details like video transcripts, titles, and overlays can be really awesome additions to your videos and give really your video content that cohesive feel. It really helps shape your brand authority here. And it's also helpful for AI as well, for verifying and attributing your facts to cite you more accurately. All right, another question here. So what formats, expert interviews, original surveys, case studies, seem to earn the most citations in AI right now? I would say definitely case studies and raw data. So anything that you personally as a business can survey your clients on, or maybe just provide that new information to the industry. I think that gets really picked up by AI, especially with the timeliness, and just adding that new info to the web is super powerful in AI right now.
Yeah, and any data that you have to share, and if you can organize it in a really easy to understand, digestible way, that also helps you get included in the AI overviews when people are asking specific questions.
Good stuff. In this example, we can see why a larger site like Healthline may get cited a little bit more often than, say, a personal blog here on the right. So Healthline flexes their EEAT with expert bios, they've got review dates, they've got schema, while smaller blogs tend to miss those technical trust cues. So if you're a smaller blog, and this may be one way to kind of separate yourself and differentiate to drive success in AI.
The truth is that you can't fake experience, expertise, authority, or trustworthiness. But what you can do is set yourself up for success from the inside out. So let's take a look at some of the ways that you can engineer those EEAT signals to make sure, unlike the personal blog that Liz just talked about, that you're sending those signals both to search engines and to LLM models to be pulled in and cited. First of all, wherever you can, use original research. If you're using original content or a unique perspective on an idea or a topic that you're writing about, you're much more likely to be pulled into the LLM results. In our 2024 survey of 1,000 marketers, 82% of them saw higher AI-driven clicks on proprietary data or on unique perspectives. Original surveys and charts outperform repackaged insights nearly every time. And research fuels authority across all of your channels, from PR to content to outreach. If you can showcase what your brand is doing that's new, that's unique, that's original, you have a much better chance of ranking not only in traditional search, but also in AI-driven search. Next, make sure you're properly formatting your content for scraping. Send the right signals to the LLMs. What we know is that clear layout supports easier extraction from the LLMs. Remember, we want the computer to go in and grab your content and use it. So let's use a clear layout to do that. That includes things like using H2s, using numbered lists, and using short form answers. Always keep in mind that summary ready structure beats long form blocks of text in AI search nearly every time, because the LLM doesn't want to go searching in the middle of 1,000 words of giant block of text. They want to grab a snippet and use that in their citation. And finally, include short intros or key takeaways to each section. And certainly, if you're not already doing it, consider a TLDR section at the top of your blog or a summary section at the end of your blog to better frame what the LLM can hope to find there. We've been telling you this for a long time. Schema markup is important. Schema markup still wins in this new era of AI generative search. Your schema is going to clarify the content intent, and it's going to clarify the author identity. Two of those major signals that we've already talked about, and we're going to revisit these ideas over and over. Pages with FAQ schema, where they're appropriate, get featured 12% more in AI snippets, because if you have a question and have provided the answer and you've included that in your structured data, then the LLM knows exactly where to find that answer. Machines use schema to validate subject matter authority. Humans don't see this data, but the machines do, and that's exactly who we're talking to in this new era of search. Like we've talked about before, Reddit is a big player in AI search. If you're on Reddit and you're cultivating relationships through genuine engagement, we're not talking about marketing language. We're talking about real human interpersonal language. Go get to know your industry. Go get to know the users in your industry. Get to be a part of what those conversations are. I'll talk a little bit later about some mistakes to avoid when you're using Reddit in this way. But keep in mind that Reddit threads influence AI trust models. If you want AI to trust your brand, this is a great way for you to establish experience and expertise and authority and trustworthiness. Forums build perceived authenticity and expertise, but they're not dumb. Forums are going to notice if what you're doing is marketing driven language only, and they're going to reject the sort of work that you're doing if you're not careful.
Yep. And Reddit is very anti-marketing. So if it seems too marketing, it just won't work on Reddit, as a heads up. You got to really participate and be real and genuine for it to work out on Reddit.
Don't underestimate the citation value of guest collaborations. Speaking of cultivating relationships, reach out to experts in your field. Reach out to others who are doing peripheral work to what your brand is doing. See how you can be featured in their blog, or how you and the representatives from that brand can work together to do a syndicated blog or a piece of content that's very public with both of you in the bylines. Collaborations with known experts expand that trust reach. 60% of marketers claim that guest blogging has helped them grow brand awareness and credibility. And a study found that co-authoring with recognized experts boosts your citation likelihood in AI by 45%. So take the time to reach out and get to know other experts in your field. The next piece of this is structured reviews. We're not just talking about reviews on your Google business profile, although that certainly helps too. We're talking about structured reviews. Software reviews in G2 are 30% more likely to be cited in AI results than unstructured testimonials about your software. Ratings and breakdowns of a product are machine readable, and they're machine readable proof of quality. Third-party validation signals consistency across channels. If others are talking about your brand, that signals across AI as it's pulling in data and trying to decide whether your content is trustworthy enough to make it into the citation. Those validation signals work really, really well in popping that in. Next, and we're going to talk about this a couple of times today, put a face on your expertise. That is to say, if you've got someone in your organization, maybe it's you, maybe it's a subject matter expert that's working with your product, get them out to the public. Use video intros, use professional bios, use their credentials on page. Both AI and, more importantly, readers like transparent authorship. If I'm going to read a blog, I want to know who wrote it, and I want to know who gives them the right to have an opinion on this idea. If you can provide that information right up front, that's going to help your reader, and it's going to help the AI generative engines to find your content and to trust it. Put that information visually on the page. Don't just put it in the metadata on your blog. If you have an author, include that author. If you don't, if you're using an agency, for example, to ghostwrite for you, decide who the representative author is going to be for your brand and have them involved in the content, or have them reviewing the content and put their name on there as a reviewer, reviewed by Dr. So-and-so, for example. Reinforce that expertise wherever you can with institutional ties or with ties to other publication. If you're working with a subject matter expert, where are they being cited? Link to that. When it comes to author attribution, here are some do's and don'ts. Don't, if you can avoid it, use a by admin byline or an anonymous byline. Don't do what the example on the top right has done here. By white canvas team. Great, that's probably true, but who is the white canvas team? What gives them the authority to write on this topic? Is there someone better in that organization that could be cited here that would deliver better EEAT results? Instead, use named authors with relevant credentials. Link to their bios or their published work. Link to their media features or the institutions that they're affiliated with, if there are institutions. That doesn't mean you have to have a PhD on your staff, but if you do, for heaven's sake, see if you can get them involved in your content.
All right, let's talk about accelerating authority through paid PR and owned assets. So paid and PR can be great ways to surface your brand where AI already listens. You can even kind of take your PR and paid campaigns a step further and get strategic to time these campaigns with product launches or original research drops, maybe case studies. That alignment can be super powerful with getting picked up in AI as well. So publishing all of that kind of at the same time is super powerful in AI. You may notice that niche paid Reddit threads can really gain traction when done authentically and transparently, like Chris had mentioned in the top of the call. Threads with engagement and contextual relevance usually are outperforming flat ads. So this engagement is a huge relevance signal to AI. AI is looking for this engagement within your community without that marketing language. So niche Reddit ads is a great place to explore for your brand, for sure. Another great tip for showing up in AI is to find outlets that are already cited by AI in your industry. So, for example, in tech-related queries, sponsored posts on industry sites provide about 27% of AI citations. So tech industries would definitely want to start testing out these types of sponsored posts on different outlets. And in these sponsored posts, you'll want to include valuable expert insights, quotes, structured lists, and really focus on that relevancy. So relevancy is a stronger factor than volume here. Keeping in mind, credibility is the goal with these sponsored posts rather than reach.
And in the long run, I don't see sponsored posts driving that much of AI citations. I think they'll tweak them and, start filtering a lot of that out. I don't think it probably won't go down to zero, but it'll be really, really, really low compared to what it is right now.
I think that's a good point. I think this is probably one of my favorite slides here for today. Creating tools. So interactive tools are cited 22% of the time versus 8% for guides in AI. So when we think tools, these could be calculators, quizzes, interactive designs, goal trackers, some sort of comparison tool, right? The options are endless there, but keep in mind these tools should provide an output, but take the results a step further. So maybe showing an industry average for a user to compare to, or show results instantly in a way that they can download or refer back to. Really have your tool results just providing extra value there. An example might be like of a budgeting tool. Say the results are, nice. You're 20% above budget for spend this month. This really helps the user interpret their results rather than, just having their results and moving on. You can also promote those tools as well across like email, blogs, social, to really see that impact and increase your exposure there. Mini case studies is also a great way to engage the user with that real company data that AI is scraping. And these should be structured in ways that AI can easily scrape and cite. So going back to those bullet points, charts, bold metrics, really that kind of AI setup for ways that they can grab that chunkable content. This is also a really great opportunity to repurpose case studies on other channels as well to increase that exposure. So always be sharing your case studies on socials, repurposing into blog posts as well can all help kind of grow that exposure. If you're missing out on video assets at this point, this is probably one of the biggest low-hanging fruit items for you in the age of AI. A whopping 40% of AI citations include video assets. So these videos have on-screen resources that are showing expert names, dates, charts with, labels and overlays. So this is not only helpful for the user and for user experience, but it's a very good way for AI to really pick up that info and a great way to flex your EEAT as a company. Company tag posts on LinkedIn spike more engagement. So these are 3 times likely to be scraped by AI. And LinkedIn is really a great place to be expressing that thought leadership in those professional contexts. The right platform is really LinkedIn for this. And yeah, LLMs are gauging your brand here, which can be super impactful for sightings. With LinkedIn company posts, I would say just similar to blog content with traditional SEO, consistency is key there. So really getting on a post cadence and staying consistent can be super helpful for EEAT in the age of AI.
Thanks, Liz. So earlier I talked about some things you can do to really tee yourself up for EEAT. Let's talk about some things you can avoid. The author bio that I mentioned a little while ago, don't think of that as just a checkbox. This isn't just about ticking the right boxes. It's about featuring and highlighting the right people in the organization, or highlighting the people in your organization in the right ways. So use detailed bios with their roles and their credentials and their affiliations. Link to third-party references like academic journals or interviews wherever you can. Also, refresh those bios. This isn't a set it and forget it idea. If you've got someone in your organization who's working with your content, or who can work with your content, who has a big achievement or a big accomplishment within the industry, update that bio. Make sure that's present and apparent right on the page. And then include visibility across your entire website. Include this in your video content, include this in your tools, include these authors and that credential, that expertise, that authority across everything that you're doing on your page. Another mistake that we commonly see is folks ignoring those offsite conversations. These are those hard to quantify conversations like the ones on Reddit that we talked about earlier. Reddit doesn't like marketing, so you want to be really careful here in cultivating authentic, real relationships. Contribute valuable insights to conversations within relevant communities. Answer questions, do ask me anything conversations, for example. Just giving away information, giving away authority and expertise wherever you can, but only include links to your website when it directly adds value. Forums and reviews and QA threads influence authority models. We know that. We know that these results are pulled into AI results. AI gives weight to third-party validation, not just brand content. So your visibility in these conversations will create indirect citations and also direct citations. Another mistake that we see, and again, this isn't new, to those of you who've been tuning into these webinars for a while, you've heard us talk about structured data. You've heard us talk about the way that you put together a blog or a website structurally, visually, and also in terms of meta signals and schema markup. If you're not using proper structure, or if you're using data that isn't original, you're missing opportunities. Copycat content rarely earns citations. If you're just citing the same thing that you cited a year ago without some new insight, you're missing an opportunity. If you're pulling data or information from a third-party vendor and just including that on your website as part of your blog, you may, the same thing that other businesses in your industry are also using on their blog, you're unlikely to rank and get citations for that piece of content. Use your schema and your structured elements to improve visibility. Send the right signals to the AI and to your readers, and frankly, to traditional search engines about what your page is and what it's doing. And then stand out with new research. Stand out with new points of view. Stand out with visualized proof of whatever you're working on, whether it's social proof or new results from an ongoing project that you've been working on. Let's walk through a couple of examples really fast. On the next slide, this is a really, really good one to screenshot. I'm actually going to talk really slowly for a minute and give you a second to pull out your phone or your screenshotting tools and screenshot this slide, because these are real world EEAT tactics that we know actually work. These can be lots of different things, like creating content hubs with AI ready structure and embedded internal tools. They can be things like publishing behind the scenes videos with process breakdowns and timestamps, or adding structured author bios. You've heard me say this now, I think this is the fourth time that I've harped on this, but that's because this really works. From an EEAT perspective, this is vital. Add structured author bios that link to verified credentials. Use cross-posted LinkedIn thought leadership tagged with expert mentions. Let's take a look at some folks that are doing this particularly well and examine what they're doing that's working so well. Zapier's pages are frequently referenced by Perplexity for automation tips. If you're in Perplexity and you ask for automation tips, Zapier is going to come up more often than just about anyone else in their space. But why? Well, it's because their automation guides include expert quotes, with citation and attribution. They're properly marked up in terms of their schema, and they also include embedded demos. So you can see not only the answer to the question, but like Liz mentioned earlier, how to do the thing that you've asked. They're also really very, very clever and very assertive about change logs. So when they go in and update a piece of their content to refresh it, those change logs are updated. They update their dates to boost the freshness signal, not only to conventional search engines, but also to large language models. Their guides also tie to real world tools, and they provide use case calculators. How can I use this tool? Will this solve my problem? So by the time you've read the page that Perplexity has sent you to, you have a pretty good idea of not only how to do the automation tip you ask Perplexity to give you, but also whether Zapier's tools are going to be the right tools to help you on that process. That's effective EEAT. If you've ever done any work in the healthcare space, you're not surprised to hear that the Mayo Clinic is a leader in citation. They're at the top of every SERP. They have been for years, but they're also at the top of AI results. And they're there for some really, really good discernible reasons. Most importantly, the Mayo Clinic on all of their content features physician-reviewed content. And in every case, you know the reviewer's bio, you know their medical credentials, so you're better prepared to feel like you can trust the content. In reality, you likely can trust the content, but more importantly, you're prepared to feel like you can trust the content. And the AI model is better prepared to go, yeah, that sounds right, as it pulls it into your AI results. Their articles include clear last reviewed dates, so you know if the information is a week old or a month old or 10 years old, and whether that's relevant enough to answer the question in a way that feels authoritative and accurate and up to date. They're also structuring their content beautifully. Everything on their page includes tabs and anchor links where they're answering multiple questions on a page. They're including FAQ schema, which helps both conventional search engines and LLM AI models to parse their information. So it's not just that they're providing good information, but they're also saying, here, computer machine who's reading this, this is what you should expect to find here. This is the question that was asked. Here's our answer. And AI goes, okay, that sounds right. They also feature an embedded Ask a Specialist tool, which is really neat. So if you're on the Mayo Clinic and you have a deeper question than what their content that's already physician reviewed, that's already including reviewer bios and medical credentials is offering you, you can really easily ask a specialist, not just ask our staff, not just ask their AI bot, but literally ask a specialist, which showcases real expert involvement beyond the article. This is really, really good experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. There's a reason that Mayo Clinic gets pulled to the top. Again, anyone who's worked in the healthcare space knows that WebMD is a powerhouse. But they're a powerhouse for a lot of really, really good reasons. They also use really well-structured data. One of the neat things that WebMD does is that they have a symptom input. You put in a symptom that you're having, and WebMD can give you some possible conditions that may cause the symptom that you're feeling. But those condition results are expert reviewed. You know who reviewed it. It might be, as you can see here, it might be written by the WebMD editorial contributor, but it's reviewed by a doctor. You can click on their bio, you know exactly their credentials, you know what qualifies them to have answered your question, and it feels an awful lot like you can trust the results. Their pages contain interactive features like first aid visuals, reputable treatment information. You can take action in many cases from a WebMD result. And at the very least, you're better prepared to talk to your own actual doctor the next time you go to talk about these symptoms. Their content is richly structured with FAQ schema, with intensely audited internal linking, and a really, really AI friendly structured markup.
And you can even see some of this as a user when you're just skimming their content. It's really easy to digest, especially for someone who's not a medical professional. Imagine how easy they've made it for AI to digest their information.
Absolutely. And the results are really obvious. WebMD is frequently cited in AI overviews and generative health summaries across every AI channel because they're saying, this is what you can find here. Here's why you should trust it.
Yep. All right, so let's wrap it up and get into some Q&A. So first key takeaways, look, generative search favors layered, validated authority. The more authority you build, the better off you are, not just on your own website, but throughout the whole web because they have data deals with a lot of different platforms. And E is about all full spectrum credibility, like I just talked about. You want it on Google, you want it on Reddit, you want it on other forums like Quora, you want it on places like Wikipedia, you want it on Instagram, you want it on TikTok, and the list goes on and on. And when you build up the authority, this future proofs your SEO, and not just SEO that everyone knows about, but where SEO is going. How SEO was just known as 10 blue links, although I know we've moved away from that a long time ago to videos and other formats mixed in. But to now, SEO is really evolving to, it doesn't matter if you search on Google or ChatGPT, eventually it'll all be quote unquote mainly powered by AI. I know Google's partly, AI mode is fully, but it'll just be experience that is more AI powered as we keep progressing forward. And you want to make sure you're adapting so then that way you're there. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're getting more or less traffic. What really matters is, are you getting more or less sales? And what we found is when you build up your authority, you're getting mentioned more, which is driving a lot more revenue. So if you need help with your EAT and building it up, we can end up running an audit. We can fix gaps in schema, off-site or off-page citations. We can help with tool building. We can end up even helping with, full stack EAT techniques from not just the strategy end, but also helping you execute on all platforms. And our clients are seeing an average of 7-to-1 ROI with authority focused programs, earning real returns across search and AI platforms. Sorry about that. And in general, if you want us to run an audit, you can scan the QR code right there. With you just bust out your phone, scan the QR code, or you can just go to npdigital.com, fill out your information, and we'll be in touch. We operate in all the major countries, so we can do it in pretty much any major country or language. All right, Colin, let's get into some questions.
I have to go there. But if your website doesn't eat, it's probably going to starve. Sorry, I've been kind of holding out for that one. So lots of that was bad. I'm sorry, but lots of really good questions, and we do have. I'd like to wrap up a couple minutes early because Neil, they're asking about, isn't Neil doing another webinar like sometime today? Yes, you are. So we're going to try to wrap up a few minutes early. But here's a really interesting one for Chris and Neil. If you want to pile on, let's hear it. I am one of the email marketers in the organization. Can email campaigns contribute to EEAT? Also, any thoughts on adapting email CTAs to more of an EAT framework, like hear from an SVP rather than learn more or click here? Great question. Any thoughts, Chris? We'll start with you on that one.
I think it's a great question. It's a tricky question because your email marketing isn't likely to be indexed, so it's not likely to be directly visible to the AI models. But it can absolutely contribute to EEAT in terms of authority, in terms of perception of your brand. I love ideas like updating the CTAs to something beyond learn more. I also think that there's some clever ways you can use email marketing specifically to help boost signals back to your website. Obviously, that's the idea. Is I don't want you to just get my email and forget about it. I'd like you to get my email and come back to my website. So things like case studies, which we mentioned earlier, um, ideas like what's coming next or industry updates where they're appropriate could be great ways to direct people back to the site, which can then help boost authority um, in that way. Neil, did I miss something in that?
The one thing to keep in mind with email that is your subject line isn't the main reason that people open up an email. It is actually the sender. And when I mean sender, I'm talking about who it's from. For example, if the president sent you an email, well, that's political. Forget that one. If like a Michael Jordan sent you an email, or Cristiano Ronaldo sends you an email, you're probably more likely to open it. Or if your mom sent you an email, right? Your mom has crazy authority with you, you're likely to open up the email. So as you send up emails more and more, and you're sending valuable emails, that's actually the key. It's not about sending emails, it's about sending like valuable emails that help people. You're going to build up your authority on a one-to-one basis. And then those people are much more likely to follow you, reference you, and all this kind of stuff indirectly affects your authority.
Email does lots.
Your email
Here's
marketing can
one.
also help to cultivate those relationships. So the relationships that I've been talking about throughout this entire webinar today, um, ongoing personal relationships with your users or with the public, this is a good way to do that. Emails are a lot more personal than a whole lot of other forms of marketing. Sorry.
All good. Here's another one, and I'm going to address this to all, but maybe we can start with Neil. What's your stance on fully transparent versus partial disclosure of AI assistance? For example, drafted with AI support notes or fact checked by those sorts of things. Like, are those things that we think might benefit EEAT or hurt EEAT? Neil, and then Chris, Elizabeth, any thoughts on that? Because there are a lot of publications that are definitely citing that, and I'm just curious to get your take.
So I'll start with this. We ran an experiment where we took human written content, and it was all human written. There was no AI. But for the bio, we changed it to a third of the time saying written by AI, modified by human, and of course put the human's name. And then the other one third of the time, we just put written by AI. And then the other third, the last third, we just kept it as is, because in theory, all versions were written by a human. And we put this information towards the top of the article, like right after the title. We found that it affects read time. The highest read time was humans. The second highest read time was written by AI, modified by humans. The lowest read time was written by AI. I haven't seen any data on how this affects, quote unquote, the platforms looking at you from a EEAT perspective. And ideally, more than what you're optimizing a platform for, when you're creating content, it's not about if it's written by AI or not written by AI or what you use. It should just be the best content for the individual, optimized for the best experience. And sometimes having some of it written by AI is actually going to make a better experience than not. So I would take it from there. But Chris or Elizabeth may have some opinions on whether they should have the disclaimer there or not. I'm a bad person to ask, because most of the stuff that we end up producing, it's non-AI, but we do use AI for things like research and stuff like that. I just enjoy writing, so we tend not to use the AI for writing.
Awesome. Thank
I think a lot of it
you.
has to do with perspective. If you're thinking of AI as a tool instead of as a writer, think about whether you would disclose whether you're using SEM Rush as a part of your process. If that's going to be at the bottom of your blog, drafted using SEM Rush support. And if you're not inclined to include that sort of disclosure of a tool that you're using, maybe you don't need to disclose AI support. It's different if you're using AI as your primary writer, which we've been recommending against for, since AI hit the scene. We think AI is a great tool, but we think AI with human interaction and human support is the better tool. And so, can it hurt your EEAT? I don't know that disclosing it can help your EEAT. I don't know whether it will hurt it, but I don't know that it's going to give you more credibility with EEA or with AI models or with readers.
Well, while we're on the topic, I have another question here, and I'm not going to drop the tool name, but there are all sorts of tools sort of like coming out of the woodwork that basically remove humans from the entire SEO process. Like the AI tools will do the research, the AI tools will write the content for you, and oh, guess what? You can also schedule the AI to physically like publish and or post on your behalf.
And then it'll do it for all your competitors as well. And then what's the real differentiator in the strategy? It'll
Right.
be an AI differentiated strategy, but you can try it out. We've had clients not sign up with us because they can just do it all through AI. And then when they don't see the results, we tend to get an email back, or one of our competitors gets an email back.
Yeah, great answer. One for Elizabeth. Does linking out to websites that mention you help to lead gen AI tools to kind of like connect the dots? So like if you're being cited elsewhere, is it a good idea to maybe like link back to the folk that's citing you?
I don't think it's so much thinking about the HTML links going back and forth as much as it is just the engagement. So as long as, those sites are, you're kind of engaging in the same network, it's actually good engagement and not salesy engagement. I think that brand engagement and the conversation is more important than the links themselves these days, which I know is definitely not super traditional for SEO, right? It's all kind of been about the links, but yeah, I think the brand engagement and the conversation there and that relevance and context is most important.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Chris, we got a question from YouTube from a huge fan. Where and how does Google pull the review data from? From the website, from the review sites, from Google My Business? Like, are the reviews and the schema getting pulled from one place, both places? What's the scoop there?
As far as I understand, all of the above, which is a less helpful answer. So let me break that down a little bit. If you've got reviews on your website, Google's going to go looking for them. If you've got reviews on your Google My Business profile, Google's going to go looking for them. But you also want to, if you can, get reviews on external sources as well, external sites, because it's sending an additional signal that I can trust that brand, that information feels right. I wonder if the AI is pulling in reviews only from your website, if they're assuming that those reviews have been curated. Whereas if you've got third-party reviews that you can't so easily curate from Google My Business or from places like Yelp or Trustpilot, if that sends a stronger signal.
Yeah, that third-party validation, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And here, let's end with this one because I know we've got a hard stop. Any thoughts? It's like press release optimization. What's old is new again, or I've been hearing quite a bit of that. So, any thoughts on press release syndication, helping with EEAT, or just helping to show up in AI overviews in general? Are press releases like a good tool for the toolbox? Is there more emphasis on it all of a sudden, like it was 10 years ago? Maybe Elizabeth is nodding. Let's start with Elizabeth and then go around to Chris and Neil.
Yeah, I think we're seeing those PR efforts come back into play now more than ever. I think, those traditional efforts are just reshaped and, timed with product launches or maybe a comprehensive piece of content or a tool that maybe you're dropping. That can be really impactful with your kind of omni-channel campaign. So yeah, PR is definitely coming back into the play a lot more, and we're seeing it super impactful in AI sightings for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Anything to add there, anyone? If not, maybe we
From an
wrap it up and call it a
EEAT
day.
perspective, it's pretty amazing. Digital PR, like if you're trying to establish experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, getting information out about your new big news is a pretty good way to get that sort of visibility.
Right.
Yeah, I think digital PR is amazing. I'm with Elizabeth on the press releases as well. I don't
Same.
think in the long run press releases will have the same impact. Just like right now, we're seeing if a small irrelevant site talks about you and they say amazing things that helps with the LLMs, I don't think it'll help as much in the future. I think the algorithms will get more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, maybe we call it a day.
Cool. Well, everyone, thank you guys for attending. I know you guys had a busy morning. If you guys need help with your marketing, check us out at npdigital.com. We can help you with your authority, your E, or anything else related to digital marketing, LLMs, or what may be it. Thank you, everyone.